Okay, I just recorded another podcast episode, and you're going to love this. This is Rick Pierce with NatGen. Rick Pierce has worked with insurance agencies from the carrier side for 44 years. I've known Rick for about 30 of those 44 years. In this podcast, we're going to touch on some magical topics. We go deep into relationships. So I know that's an overused word, but I think you're going to enjoy what we're talking about here as it pertains to relationships. We talked about authenticity and how you can use that to grow your business and be more successful. We even talked about the definition of success. We touch on acquisitions, new agency startups, and of course, we had to talk a little bit about AI. So I hope you enjoy this episode. I think you're going to love it. Welcome to the Insurance Agency Success Podcast, the only podcast that helps insurance agencies grow their business while increasing their happiness and joy. I'm Eddie Price, founder of Jenesis Software and an agency owner for more than 30 years. I have started, bought, sold, and scaled agencies, and for the last 25 years, helped others do the same through Jenesis. On this show, you're going to hear real stories and proven strategies to help you streamline your operations, increase profits, and really enjoy the business that you've built. And if you'd like to learn more about what we do here at Jenesis Software, just visit genesissoftware.com, click on the orange button to request a demo. All right, Rick, welcome, man.
Eddie, it's so good to see you, my friend.
Is it really good to see me?
It really is good to see you. Yes, it truly is.
I saw you probably less than a year ago at the Big I conference, right? In North Carolina.
Yep, we sure did.
Okay. I saw a few people. I saw Devereaux, had not seen him in a while. So those are so good to go to. And I'm going to go back this year. I think it's in September.
Yeah, it's such an amazing reunion. And it's so cool that it's, in Winston-Salem now. And I don't have very far to go, as you know.
Oh, yeah, you don't. And I'm not too bad either from Burlington,
Yeah.
to get there.
Yeah.
So, and we're doing some other events across the country, but that's my closest one. And I appreciate going home at night and staying in my bed,
Yes.
So, Rick, let's do this. So I want to start, and I think I'm going to enjoy this because every time I've done this with people, even people like you that I've known for a while, and I've known you for almost 30 years, I think.
Probably 30 years. That was the number I had. Yeah.
Okay. And we can talk a little bit about that, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about the early days of Jenesis for me as you guys were involved. But let's start. I want to hear the Rick story. I want you to share kind of how did you get in this business and when, and then how has that progressed for you? We don't have to take a long time, but I really would like to know what have your roles been, who you've worked with from those early days until now.
Oh my goodness. Well, let's start with, I grew up in Kernersville, North Carolina, which is 10 miles from Winston-Salem. I still live in Kernersville. I've had the most amazing career. And I tell everyone that I see in the industry or outside the industry that they'll never meet anyone that's had a more incredible career that has never had to move. I've worked all over the country. I've met agents and industry people from every corner of our country, been in their offices, been at their conventions, been in so many things, and I have never had to leave Kernersville, North Carolina, as my home. So I grew up in Kernersville. My dad was a funeral director. Okay. We owned a funeral home in Kernersville. And I went to App State, graduated in 1981. I felt pretty confident that I was not going to join the funeral business, but I did agree to come back and work with my dad for a little while. We decided to sell the business, and which we did. And then I had to go find a job. And so everyone who is looking for a job, they're going to talk to their friends. So I had a really good friend that was at App State with me, and she was working for Inagon. Inagon was principally a regional life insurance company with a real small property and casualty division. But I saw her one evening for dinner, and she said, "Rick, you should come work for Inigon." And she said, and as a matter of fact, there is a job opening in the department next to me, and I think you'd be perfect. I said, "Well, what's the job?" She said, "I really don't know." And I said, "And how much does it pay?" And she said, "I really don't know that anyway, but I just know you'd be perfect." So I said, "Sure, sounds like my kind of place." So I got an interview, and the job was it was called management services. And basically it was an in-house consultant that got to go and work with departments all over the company. And sometimes I would write procedures with how people did their jobs. Sometimes I would actually have to measure people so that they would have a standard for doing their job. But maybe one of the most, well, anyway, so I did have the interview. It was in the morning. I had a job offer before the end of the day. So I was like, man, this is amazing. But one of the jobs that was so cool there, Eddie, and I was telling somebody about this the other day, is we had a program at the company that was called A Penny for Your Thoughts. And it was a employee suggestion program. And I had to evaluate these suggestions from all over the company. And so I met all these people. I had to sit down with them and figure out how much their suggestion would save the company. And they got to share in a percentage of the annual savings. So so the greatest part about it was I got to be, the candy man with the check. And when it was adopted, I got to take it. And we had, most companies had a weekly newsletter that went to all employees, and my picture was made and everything. So I was meeting everybody in the company. And so after a year, you got a chance to do what we call job ops. And I had 3 offers for a job in 3 different roles at the end of this year of opting in. And I chose the job in property and casualty to be a supervisor of data entry. And because I got the advice from somebody who said, find a job in the company that lets you learn the business. If you want to sell, you need to understand how it works. And so I spent roughly 5 years going up through the back office of Inigon, property and casualty. And these were during the early days. This was 1983, really to 1986, 87. But I did. I learned, we upgraded our computer systems. I was a part of the team that did that. So I learned all of that. I began to work on my CPCU. I began to get my AAI designation, but I wanted to be not just conversant. I wanted to be someone that understood the business. And then in 1987, when we began to expand our property and casualty writings beyond North Carolina, I got the greatest honor and gift of Art Lyon hired me to be a little bit of his side man, but we became Butch and Sundance, and it was, we got to go through this explosive growth of Inigon, to the days of, then we became GMAC Insurance. And then when we were bought by General Motors, and then ultimately we became National General Insurance when we were bought by private investors. And I've held roles of product management, of back office service manager, assistant vice president, senior vice president, head of marketing. But in the end, it's always been independent agents, understanding independent agents, and bringing products to a customer group that has a choice on every company that they choose for their customers. And so it's a long 44-year story. In fact, June 21st was my 44th anniversary with the company. And Eddie, it's just been an amazing run. And I will tell you that some of my dearest and best friends are industry people, agents that I have literally worked with for 40 years. I mean, it's been an incredible run. And I love coming to work every day. I still do. And it's just a real gift.
So 44 years, love all of that, by the way. Some of that I didn't know for sure. I like that part. What is your role now? Are you still full-time? Are you thinking about retirement?
No, I'm still full-time. I work from home now. After COVID, most of us went home. But what I do mostly now, my principal role is to support our North Carolina business through, as the folks watching this video, many may not be North Carolina. We have one of the most unique insurance systems for property and casualty insurance in North Carolina from anywhere in the country. But I am our representative. When Art retired, we play a pivotal role in the insurance industry across all avenues in North Carolina. So I serve on the Rate Bureau Governing Committee. I am presently, Nat Jen and I am our representative as the chair of the North Carolina Reinsurance Facility. I work with our legislative partners. I am not a registered lobbyist, but I work closely with our lobbyists and people that work on all things North Carolina. I also represent National General with agent associations. So whether it's the Big I or whether it's the PIA at the national level, I do that. I work really closely with the folks in North Carolina on the Big I, Joe Stewart, and all the folks in North Carolina, and work very closely with our sales teams that are out, and whether it's North Carolina or anywhere in the country. It's just to bring what experience I've got and relationships that I have sort of to bear on their markets. So I have an amazing job. Let's say a job. And one of my principal things, Eddie, is for people like you, for people like that I have met along the way, whether it's technology, whether it's distribution, it matters not, is I tend to work to bridge the gap with folks so that they know and understand and work better with National General.
Okay. How many states are you guys in?
Golly, I think it's 46 now, I believe, somewhere in that range. Our goal is when National General was purchased by Allstate, I remember one of the questions was, is Allstate going to expand the National General footprint? And I remember the leader at the time said, let me remind you, our name is Allstate.
Good point.
Not some state.
Yeah, I like it.
So it's really exciting. And our expansion has been remarkable.
Okay, that's exciting. And, it's also refreshing to be able to talk to somebody like you, not only have I known you for a long time, but your energy and enthusiasm and passion and curiosity has always been peak. I've never had a conversation with you that you're not like you are right now. You seem to have had 44 years, and maybe you would have done this had you stayed in the funeral home business. I don't know, but you seem to be just really into and excited about everything that's going on around you. And that's contagious. So,
Eddie, I am. And that I appreciate you saying that. I truly do. And this isn't an act. This is just the way I'm wired.
I know it's not an act because I've talked to you too many times. You can't be false and be consistent. So I know the way you are is the way you are. No doubt about it. Because, people can they can put on the show, but they can't keep showing up like that,
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, and I've wondered, I'm sure a lot of people have studied me to figure out what's wrong with me. But anyway, I have wondered about what it is about this industry that has connected with me, and what is it about the roles that I have that have worked for me and have worked for the company. And one of the things was I'll go back to my dad. is I got an award years ago, the National Company Award for the PIA, National PIA, and I had to write a speech, and I had to think about, all right, how did I get here? And I made the connection that my dad, in his role as owning a funeral home, it was a 24/7, 365 job. I did not know what being off was. And I think that is so ingrained in me is I never truly consider myself off. If someone needs me and they can reach me, I am going to respond. And that's one thing. But the other thing is I was raised in small business. I know what it's like to be the last one paid, in small business, because that was my dad. And so I just find myself so drawn to insurance agencies and what they have to do every day. And we're in a business. It's 24/7, 365. Claims don't stop, when we get to 5 o'clock. And so I think I was just hardwired for this, for our industry and for the role that I've had.
Well, I think we are often placed and have an opportunity at least to choose to be placed where we belong. And some people ignore that calling, if you want to call it that. And some people are blessed to have the insight or discernment to accept it. And I feel the same way you do. I think my early days with Farm Bureau and then as an agency owner for quite a few years, 27 years, I think, as an agency owner after Farm Bureau, because many of those years were kind of overlapped between Jenesis and the agency. But and then in this role for 28 years now, since Jenesis started, I think I'm the same way. I believe there's something about the business of insurance. I think to me, and I'm probably a little more connected to the business of insurance than I am the policy data about insurance. You know what I mean? Like I get juiced about agents or about running an insurance agency, whether it be data and systems and processes, even marketing and growth, more so than I do about the Accord form specifically or this new coverage or how this works. So
sure.
Don't know if that's like, if they view it that way or not, but
I do. I get it. I know that people that I work with, insurance agencies, owners, producers, CSRs, they know far more about insurance than I do, and in all the lines of business that are far beyond sort of my level of expertise. But at the end of the day, if I can understand what their needs are from a carrier, then my laser focus has to be delivering on what we can do for them that makes their life easier, that gives them advantages in the marketplace to grow and be successful. So that's my job. And I find so often, and I love it, guys like you, though, agencies across the country, they are so good at what they do and evaluating risk and knowing how to cover the risk appropriately. And I'm just honored to work with these incredibly smart people and that are gifted at that role. And so,
yeah, and we say a lot here to add on exactly what you just said. We talk about here at Jenesis a lot, very frequently, that we are so blessed to be associated with such amazing customers that we have. 99.9% of our customers. I mean, there's always the 1%, Rick. I'd be telling a lie if I didn't say that. But 99% of our customers, man, we enjoy, we partner with them, we collaborate with them, and we love showing up to work with them and not just feel like a customer-vendor relationship. So I get it. There's some great people out there, smart people, and people wanting to do the right thing and all of that really juices me. Let's transition. The name of this podcast that I started about a year ago is called the Insurance Agency Success Podcast. So let's talk a minute. When you think about success, the word success, being successful, and what that might mean to a person, to a business, to the insurance agency owner, I don't think there's a right answer, by the way. And I think sometimes our definitions could change based on the day. But what comes to your mind when you've observed for 44 years insurance agencies? You've seen some not be successful, and you've probably seen some ride a roller coaster of success and failure. Let's talk about that for a minute. What do you think success means for an agency owner?
First, let me just say, I think that's an amazing question. I don't know that I'm going to have the answer everyone looks for, but I'll tell you what my belief is. And that is not specifically a metric based or a financial base or anything of that sort. I think what I see is when an agency is legitimate and authentic in meeting the needs of a customer. I think that is the essence of success. Now, the spoils of money, the spoils of reputation and the spoils of just acquisition opportunities of things and stuff and all that is great, but I think it starts with knowing who you are and knowing what you want to be for your community, for your customers, for your employees, for your suppliers or your carriers or whatever it might be, your IT partners. I think it starts with the person. And look, this is what I find there's a million things that I love about the company that I work with in the industry that I'm in. But one of the things is I get to work with agents. These are agents in every category. Maybe it is a one-person agency or a 1-2-person agency that is just happy turning the lights on and being there for their customers in a small town that they grew up in. And they're happy as they can be because I won't call it a hobby. It's a calling to be the insurance person for their community. And then I might work with another agency that is, 1,000 or 2,000 employees. That is, maybe they're global or perhaps they're countrywide or certainly regional wide, and they're traded on the exchange, or they all have made the decision of what they want to be when they grow up or what they are today and what does grow up look like for them. And we play a role in every one. We might play a dominant primary role in some agencies, and we might just play a small accommodation role in that agency. But that role is important no matter what it is. We don't have to be the primary writer for an agency that what we do is not primary to them. But what we do is important to them because we might do something that someone else doesn't do, even though it's a minority place in the agency. So that's a long story around, Eddie, the way I look at agencies. I see, if you say, all right, who are the best run agencies? Who are the fastest growing agencies? That might be very different than, who do I think is being successful in their world, if that makes sense to you. Some things that I will say that in terms of those that have failed or those who have just not made it or had to sell early or close or whatever, I think a lot of those end up being, I've been accused of jumping on the shiny and new, and many of us have. I have a little bit of ADD. I admit that.
Me too.
But those that will not stay the course and really build a fence around what they are and what they can do, and they're constantly jumping, and experimenting beyond their core, I find they end up being frustrated. We're in a very conservative type of business. Our business is, there's a lot of new things that happen every day, but there is a core group of things that have not changed from when insurance was started. And that is being there when people need you, having the financial resources to know when an agent makes a promise for this is a company you can trust, that when time comes for trust, that company is there. And so, shiny and new sometimes is a flash in the pan. It just is. We've seen it. We've seen companies fail. We've seen agencies fail because they didn't do the right thing. And there is a due diligence that is required and expected of our industry beyond a lot of industries, and so I take that very serious. And I work with every kind of agency, whether they're commercial, whether they're personal, whether they're online, whether they're brick and mortar, every kind of agency. And I get such a sense of well-being and accomplishment when I see somebody that I just know in my heart are legitimate, authentic, and doing it right.
Agreed. So let me summarize and see if I heard you right. See if you think this is an accurate summary.
I hope you can, because I probably couldn't.
I do that a lot. People ask me here, they'll say, what should we say or do about this? And I'll say something that'll sound good. And they say, oh, let me write that down. And I say, well, if you didn't get it the first time, the same thing's not going to come out twice.
That's right.
But here's my big takeaway, and it aligns with the way I feel. And I think it aligns, I'd like to think, with the way most people feel. Success, I think you said, is kind of like beauty. It's sort of in the eye of the beholder. Success to you could be different than success to me. However, you kind of lean toward your feeling of success being less metric driven, maybe even less just financial, but leaning pretty heavy on relationships, people, team members, customers, serving well, and that you believe that in order to stay the course, in order to stay in business for a long time, that you have to stay the course. You have to be focused on the core, fundamental, foundational things that an insurance agency and probably a lot of businesses would have to focus on. Basic systems, I'm assuming, and customer service, building a good team, treating people well. And that's kind of my takeaway. That's kind of how I would summarize what you said. Because what you didn't say was success is making $1 billion.
No. Yeah. I didn't say that. For some people, I accept that's what their definition of success is, and that's okay. But I do want to back up something that you said that I want to correct myself with. And I think it is a failing of a lot of businesses and that is, Eddie, you said metrics and things of that sort, not maybe you didn't say as important, but let me tell you, I think that is a shortcoming of a lot, not just insurance agencies, just business in general, is that things are not measured as well as they could be in terms of expectations against actual results. My Brenda Castellano is our head of all independent agency distribution. I've worked for and with Brenda for a really long time. She uses a term is to inspect what you expect.
Yeah.
You've heard that. We've all heard that term. But it is so true in our business is if you as an agency owner expect that your customers are getting great customer service, or your customers or our people are answering the phone appropriately, or our people are answering the need, is you need to find a way to inspect that, whether that's a secret shopper, whether that's hiring somebody from outside, or just being intently observant of what the customer is seeing. Is that you got to be customer focused in any business. You got to be. And what does that mean? It means that your business is delivering on what you expect it to be. And I mean that is, I wouldn't want this interview to end without me making sure that you understand. I think that's critical.
Yeah, and you're probably saying that because Eddie's in the data business. He's going to want that. But I agree with you. That is true. And by the way, that's kind of a segue into moving away from the thought about what's the definition of success, because you gave me your thought about what some people might see as success, growing 1,000-person agency, and some maybe one man operation, one woman operation, and that's successful for them. It's a lifestyle business. But then kind of when you got into the metrics, I started thinking about, now we're talking about a very important thing, but it's how do we become successful? So success is this, happiness. Oh, by the way, going back to success definition, you said the word authentic. And here, I think that's huge. And I think it's such a more common way to think about running a business now than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. Back then, I'm not sure people were as authentic as they are today. And I mean, I'm sitting here doing a podcast interview with a very respected individual in the industry, and I'm wearing a T-shirt because that's just how I want to be. I'm authentic. Go ahead.
I love that. I absolutely love that. If you'd shown up today with a coat and tie, I probably would have found something else to do.
They'll probably edit this out, but I'll tell you real quick because it popped into my head. I'm pretty sure that the first time I met you, Mark Devereaux, it would have been around 99, 98, 99. I might have had one Jenesis customer.
Wow.
And because Mark would come by as my rep, and I'd say, look at it, you click this button and it does this. And I'd go home at night and I was so excited I could make the button do it. That was a new skill for me at the time. So there was a point where he called me and said, I want you to come down. I want you to meet with Rick Pierce. And I had heard the name Rick Pierce, but I'm like, oh my gosh. So this is hilarious, Rick. You ready for this?
Oh yeah, I am.
I loaded up my tower computer because I couldn't afford a laptop. I loaded up my monitor that was as deep as it was wide, and my keyboard and my mouse. That was my laptop. And because we weren't online, I couldn't have sat down at your desk and, hey, let's just pull it up, go to www. That didn't exist at that time. And I borrowed a friend's car, Rick, because I was embarrassed about my little pickup truck, my little Dodge Ram 50.
Or it wouldn't make it from Forest City to Winston-Salem.
Exactly. And here's the funniest part. I think I went to Belk's and bought a suit. Now, I'm not saying I was poor. That would be a false thing. I wasn't like that.
Right.
It wasn't really rags to riches, but I don't think I had a great suit or something. And I went and bought a suit. And I think I showed up and you guys were wearing khakis and a golf shirt. So I was like, oh crap, I didn't have to do all that. But my point is, I don't know. That wasn't really authentic, but that's kind of funny. My recollection of the first time meeting you and what I had forgotten about that part.
Oh, I love it.
But I think authenticity is a big deal. And here's one reason I think it's a big deal. I'm sure you're familiar that if an agency starts working with somebody, a marketing agency, let's say they say, hey, we want to grow. I'm going to find a marketing agency to work with. One of the first things the marketing agency is going to do is ask the insurance agency, what makes you unique? How are you different than the agency down the street? And if you thought answering the question a minute ago was hard about what is success, try to answer that for the how many thousands of agencies, 100,000 agencies, 50,000 agencies in the country, how they can all be unique. And when they ask an agency, why are you unique? And sometimes they'll say, we love our customers. We provide good customer service. Well, I'm really sorry. That's not unique. Everybody else is doing that too. Many better than you are. But here's the thing. If you are authentic, you're unique. If you will do you, you'll be who you want to be, behave the way you want to behave, then nobody else is going to be like that. You are different. So all you have to do is be yourself, is be you. And how
Just
easy is that? I don't have to
Right.
practice. I don't have to read anything. I just show up and do what I'm interested in. And I believe that if that doesn't allow me to be successful in the insurance agency business, then that just means that's not the business for me. I need to work in a gym. I need to work in a tattoo parlor, whatever it is I need to do. But just be who you are, because going back to, I'm not sure you said it for this reason, but I think success is having the freedom and the courage to be yourself in whatever it is you're doing.
I love that. In your next book, you need to make sure that's in there, because you know we touched on a lot of things, and that is so. This is a philosophy of business for me, and you hit it. You nailed it. I don't care if you are a restaurant, if you are a department store, or you're an insurance agency. I don't care. Is you need to have something that you are uniquely known for. Okay. I tend to use, obviously, because of, I'm probably 30 pounds overweight. I always use restaurants as a great example. You go into a lot of restaurants and they have an enormous menu of everything in the world that you probably think you could ever want, but they're really not known for anything. They have the best hot dog in the world? Do they have the best steak? Are there vegetables beyond, anyone else? They got everything, but nothing really outstanding. You know what I mean? They're just not known for something. Is if I owned an insurance agency, and there was a time in my life where I dreamed of owning an insurance. I did. I really did. In fact, I tried to buy one many, many, many years ago. It's probably the greatest thing that never happened, but at the end of the day, if I owned an insurance agency, it would be my goal that anyone that I knew or I talked to that asked the question that you just said that a marketing person would ask you is, what is unique about you? They would be able to say. They would be able to say that the Rick Pierce agency, when I go there, this is what I get. This is and that's what I expect. And everybody that works there, they all give me that. And whatever that is, I'd have to figure that one out. But I could, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I could tell you, but I'll tell you, it would be something special. And I do see that something special with many of the agencies that I know. And I love that, because I find those are people that I'm drawn to, and there are so many, there's hundreds that I have met in my career that I'm like, man, this is it,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll start winding it down. I want to do this again one day, because I just looked at the time and it kind of got away from me. I'm going to mention, we're going to talk for a second about final thoughts to see if there's anything you want to talk about that we didn't. I'll go ahead and tell you there was a couple things on my list that if anything here you want to take a minute on, we could, but if not, we can save these for Eddie and Rick part 2. I was going to talk to you a little bit about acquisitions, because you've got a history of being involved with many, many agencies, kind of helping facilitate acquisitions. So, but I think it's a little bit of a conversation. I don't know that we can do that as a closing thought. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what you were seeing with startup agencies, because I'm seeing a lot of them, and I'm seeing them, many stick around. I want to talk to you about that, but I think maybe that's a little bit of a conversation that we can't do on the way out of this. I wanted to talk to you about AI because you can't have any podcast and not talk about AI. And then I was just going to kind of get your final thoughts to wrap it up here today. So how do you want to, is there anything
Man,
there that you want to touch on, or do you want to save that for part 2 and just kind of give me any final thoughts as we wrap up? Advice for
well,
people.
I feel like that guy when you first asked me to do that. I said, okay, just give me a microphone and wind me up, because I would love to talk about every one of those. I'll take just a second to talk about all three. Just real quick, and then Eddie, anytime you want to talk to me, if
Love it.
I am more than happy to do this. First thing, acquisitions. Several years ago, we were losing a number of our independent agencies to a carrier sponsored program. You probably remember this, and I'm not going to mention carrier names, but anyway,
Okay.
it was hurting our company because it was sort of happening in the dark of night, and it was sort of a cloak and dagger kind of thing. And don't tell your companies that you sold to us, and let them find out and all that. But anyway, I had to come up, or the company needed to come up with a way to counteract that. And so I was asked to develop something, and we developed what we called our agency purchase assistance program, which was really a free consultant to an agency that was interested in retiring or selling or moving on or doing something different, and to agencies that represented us that were interested in acquiring or growing through acquisition. So I've worked on and assisted with dozens and dozens of M&A deals, and none is the same, but there is a common thread with the successful ones, and that is putting people together that have similar standards, have similar ethics. Okay. And we've been really successful at doing that. And so I'd love to talk more about that at some point in time. I'm not an appraiser, even though I can tell you what the market demands based on the kind of agency you are and how long you've been in business and all that. So anyway, love to talk about that more. The second thing, I know you want to talk about AI. The second thing, help me with that one. You said
agency startups.
Yeah, agency startups. You're right. You would think it's got to be over. I remember 25 years, 30 years ago, whatever, everybody said the day of the independent agency is over. That ship is sailing. No, it's not. It's not over. It's never going to be over. In fact, the startup of an independent agency is very fashionable right now. And don't think for one second that there is any sites, any even remote theories that the independent agency is disappearing, because it's not. So it's still an amazing career. It's an amazing opportunity. The last thing you want to talk about AI. And oh my goodness, we're invested heavily. Allstate, NatGen investing heavily in AI. And, it's doing things faster, better, cheaper, for lack of a better term. I mean, truly, that's what it is. And consistency. But here's a pitfall of AI. And it goes back to the word that you and I have both used, and that's authenticity. Our business, and this will be like a closing thought for me. If somebody said, sell me on insurance, I'm being an insurance professional. Our business is one word that really describes it, and it is trust. People hand us their hard-earned money for a promise, okay? And a promise is really only supported by trust. I trust you're going to be there when I need you. Okay. And anything that an agent or a company does that has a semblance of deception, I think is a problem, particularly in our business that is a trust-based business. So anyone and everyone that is using AI, don't pretend that AI is you. Is make sure that people understand is that it's an assist. It's not a replacement. It's not a pretend Eddie or Rick. It is an enhancement for Eddie and Rick to better meet your needs, period.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And maybe I'm a little over the top on that one, but I truly believe that our industry is different than most because of the true trust aspect and what we sell is a promise, period.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think that AI is not to be feared, but we need to use discernment in how we adopt it. I think it is going to be a big part of our future as a human race. I don't think it's going to take everybody's job. I think it'll take a lot of jobs from people who don't pay attention to it. But I don't like to see people so worried and afraid. And you go on, you see some of the hype that's coming out, and what they try to do is make you think if you don't jump on this AI course next week and learn AI, you're going to be homeless. You're going to be without a job. And so I think people don't be afraid, but don't be naive either. So pay attention, adopt slowly, and use good discernment.
Fantastic advice. And that's our company's approach to this. Is our company is investing heavily to enhance what we already do well, to allow us to do it better. And better is different for everybody, but at the end of the day, we're a people business. We really are a people business. And, they say that all the time. This is a relationship business. It is.
Yeah.
It is a relationship business.
Yeah. You started out this whole time together. The first story you told about getting in the business was through a relationship you had with somebody you went to college with.
Sure.
And then you've talked about the relationships you've had with your coworkers for 44 years. And you talked about the relationships you've had with customers for all of these years. So I agree 100%. It's a relationship business. Probably most businesses are. I guess there's some that are not, but I would miss if, I'm a data guy. I can be pretty happy on a computer for a while, but I still need this. I still need time with people like you to chat. Rick, if anyone wanted to reach out to you, would that be okay? Is that allowed? Can they send you an email or something? Or
it is the greatest privilege of my job is that I have the opportunity and get it's just a real privilege. So it's Rick.Pierce, Pierce, at ngic.com. Please email me. I promise you I'll reply. It's just, I've reached that point. I don't know where that point was, but I have it's overused about giving back, but I want it. I want to give back. My company wants me to give back to people who are starting, that people need help, that maybe I can help with. And it's the greatest privilege to be able to do that. And I'm at that point. So I am more than happy to help anybody be more successful.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Well, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you taking this time. And I am going to, if it's good with you, we'll get back on the calendar down the road just a bit. And I'll keep these other topics to dive deeper into.
Would love it. And anytime. Thanks, Eddie.
All right. Thanks, Rick. Take care, man.
Thanks for listening to the Insurance Agency Success Podcast, where independent insurance agencies like you get the tools and insights to grow, streamline, and enjoy your business. And if you're ready to simplify and scale, visit genesissoftware.com, Genesis with a J, and click on the orange button to request a demo. I appreciate you being here. Keep growing, keep building, and I'll see you next time.